Okay, well, it's 2:15. Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming to this session, A Greener Museum. The session is going to take the form of a couple of case study presentations to begin with, and then we'll split into two different breakouts with feedback sessions afterwards. Okay, let's begin. When my predecessor delivered a similar session at the Museums Association conference back in 2019, we couldn't have foreseen that we'd be dealing with the climate crisis alongside a global pandemic. At that conference, we said, "It seems hard to believe now that only 3 years ago, our greatest concerns in museums were around how to store our collections. And here we are now in a climate crisis, trying to address global problems. And here we are now in 2020, addressing the COVID-19 pandemic and its effects. But we need to take care not to let the climate crisis be pushed away by COVID-19. It is not going away. We still need to take urgent action." Cornwall has around 300 miles of coastline, and you're never more than 20 miles away from the sea. This natural landscape has defined its industry and formed its identity and formed the basis for its industry through fishing, mineral trading, and in later years, tourism. So it should come as no surprise that the people of Cornwall feel strongly about protecting it and are tackling head on some of the things that threaten our way of life and indeed our very existence. As you know, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is a whirlpool of plastic floating in the North Pacific about twice the size of France. It is set to double in size in the next 10 years if we don't change our ways. About 8 million pieces of plastic enter the ocean every day. The majority of this plastic is from land-based sources, left on beaches, washed down rivers and drains from our towns and cities, from industry spills and badly managed landfill, and flush down our toilets. And it doesn't end there. Over 150 single-use plastic bottles litter each mile of UK's coast. In the UK alone, we use 35.8 million plastic bottles in the UK, and we recycle less than half of these. A single plastic bottle takes about 450 years to degrade. And it doesn't take a genius to understand that the maths just doesn't add up. This afternoon, we're going to look at how a couple of the smaller museums in Cornwall are addressing this and what we can all do to improve our environmental impact by starting to create a green manifesto for museums. At Cornwall Museum Partnership, we've adopted an environmental strategy based on 3 simple protocols: vegan first, digital first, and sustainable first. This helps us sense check the resources that we use for every activity that we do. I know that some of your museums and organisations will already have environmental policies in place, and some won't. Some policies will be shared and followed by staff and volunteers, and some won't. Some policies will be published, some will be embedded in public programming, and some won't, yet. This session is not about judgment. This session is about acknowledgement that we're all on a journey towards a green museum, and we need to translate ideas into positive actions, no matter how big or small. This is about thinking globally and acting locally. And make no mistake, visitors will start to expect museums to engage with this agenda. In a survey last year at Newquay Museum, 82% of visitors said that climate change was one of the main concerns in their lives. Later in the session, we're going to look at how Newquay are addressing this critical agenda. But first, we're going to hear from Janine from the Castle Heritage Centre, Bude, about the pioneering joined-up work they are doing to transform the town. Over to Janine.
Thank you, Steph. My name is Janine King, and I am the Heritage Development Officer at the Castle in Bude, Cornwall. Despite being called the Castle, it isn't actually a castle at all. It is a Victorian mansion built in 1830 by the Cornish inventor Sir Gurney. Today it houses a heritage centre, cafe, art gallery, and it's also a wedding venue. So it's a building that's very much at the heart of Bude's community. Can I have the next slide, please? I want to start by just telling you a little bit about A Greener Bude. So in 2014, a group of like-minded people came together to make Bude the greenest town in the UK. And it's become home to lots and lots of different initiatives, many of which have been adopted by the towns. Probably the most famous of these is the 2-minute beach clean, which originated in Bude and championed by Martin Dorey of One Man and His Camper Van fame. He lives in Bude, and the idea behind it is that everybody who visits our beaches spends 2 minutes picking up litter to help keep the beaches clean, and it's become so successful that it's been adopted coastal-wide. We offer free water refill points around the town as well, so people can fill up their water bottles. We have quite a successful repair cafe, which is very much like the one currently on television, where people can bring things to be repaired, and that's run by volunteers. We have a refill shop where people can bring in containers to buy goods by weight, thus reducing packaging and waste. And we also have Bude Action Rubbish Group, which focuses on cleaning up the town. There are lots and lots of other initiatives, and the whole group work tirelessly to work with the community as well as the shops and businesses in Bude and also the town council. Can I have the next slide, please? So Bude Stratton Town Council own and maintain the castle, and they have supported A Greener Bude in a number of ways. So they have stopped the use of single-use plastic, banned the release of balloons and lanterns on their land, installed the water refill stations on council land. There has been a community orchard set up on council land. They harvest rainwater and use solar panels as alternative sources of energy, and introduced an electric vehicle which is used by the council maintenance team. And many of these initiatives have been in place for a number of years. The council have a separate environmental committee and also regularly review and update their environmental policies. And they have also joined the many other councils around the country who declared a climate emergency last year. Next slide, please. So I want to just come back to how we're making a difference at the castle. So probably the biggest changes have been within our Cafe Limelight. We do a takeaway service, and we offer fully compostable takeaway cups and containers for that service. And we use Vegware, which is one of the market leaders in compostable products. We've replaced all of our plastic straws with paper ones, and that was done some time ago. And they're supplied by Vegware as well. And in fact, they are so convincing people don't believe that they're not made of plastic because they're such good quality. We have stopped using single-use sauce sachets. We offer sauce in ramekins, and again, we have compostable ramekins from Vegware. We offer 40p off any hot drink if the customer provides an eco cup or something similar, and we have free tap water refills as well. And we also sell refill bottles with the proceeds going to our sea pool. Can I have the next slide, please? So all of our plastic bottles have been replaced, so we only sell glass bottles. We no longer use or allow others to use single-use plastic glasses, cups, cutlery, etc. And that's really important because we hold a lot of events on the castle, in the castle grounds, and that is clearly stated in the booking terms and conditions that single-use plastic is not allowed to be used anywhere within the castle or the castle grounds. We recycle all our packaging as you would expect, and we also encourage our customers to do the same. All of our liquids in the cafe are refilled from larger bottles, which is reducing waste. We use fair trade products and also focus on our food miles, so all of our suppliers are very local to us, or as local as they possibly can be. And it's all these initiatives that led to the cafe being highly commended in the environmentally responsible category at the 2019 Cornwall Heritage Awards. Can I have the next slide, please? So also within the cafe there's a small shop area, and again we wanted to look at how we can make a difference here and how we can get our message to our customers through the products that we sell in the shop. So we stock a number of books, and we have a number of children's books by local author Ellie Jackson, which are based on environmental themes, so such as plastics in the ocean. We stock gifts that use recycled glass. We phased out all of our plastic toys with wooden toys. Again, we buy from local suppliers wherever possible. And we use recycled paper bags, and these are only provided upon request, so we don't automatically give out bags to our customers when they buy something. Could have the next slide, please. So within the Heritage Centre, we've got a number of displays aimed at adults and children. This is the All Washed Up display. So it shows a number of natural and man-made materials that could be washed up on a beach. The user then lifts the flap to find out which of those materials would biodegrade the quickest. So it's an interactive display. It's something that we use regularly with school groups. Families and children use them, and I've also used them with volunteers in small group sessions with children as well. So it's something that's quite popular, and I think it's something that could be reproduced quite easily as well within an organisation, and it's something that's quite interactive for people to really engage with, I think. Next slide, please. So alongside all of our interpretation panels, we have highlighting climate change and also the effect of plastic on seabirds. So we've got this quite graphic picture of the albatross with plastic in its stomach, and also information on climate change, which is particularly significant to us because we are prone to flooding in Bude, and we have suffered some quite serious flooding in the past because of rising sea levels, and North Cornwall has also really suffered. Probably the most famous place which has had the most flooding is Boscastle back in 2004. So we feel that alongside all of our heritage displays about Bude's history and its popularity as a seaside resort, it's important to also give our visitors this information as well, so that they can understand the issues and problems that the coast communities face. Next slide, please. So we also have lots of information therefore for visitors as well, where they can find out more. So we have this panel with some websites and different organisations, so that, and we hope that our visitors will want to go and find out more and become more involved. And I think it's important also to say that all of these displays were installed 12 years ago. So people tend to think that plastics in the ocean and the problems is a new thing, and it isn't. It's something that has been a problem for many, many years. And I think the fact that these displays were installed when the Heritage Centre was first developed 12 years ago really shows the Council's commitment to raising awareness of these issues and trying to inform our visitors right from the beginning, which I think is fantastic. Also in the Heritage Centre, we have put UV film on our windows just to reduce heat loss, and also we phased in energy saving LED lights across the Heritage Centre as well. Could I have the next slide, please? So obviously at the moment we're not really living in our normal times. Things have changed drastically, so we're having to adapt now to COVID-19 and to a situation that's rapidly changing. I think from our organisation's point of view, what's been important is that we, despite everything that's happening and all the challenges we're facing, that we maintain those same environmental principles that we've worked so hard for to maintain. So one of the things that the council did straight away was provide all of the staff with washable face masks. So we've all got 2 washable face masks, so we don't need to use disposable ones. We are in the process of sourcing compostable gloves and visors so that the PPE can be compostable as well. We have less seating because of social distancing, so which means more takeaway. So using that those vegware products is, more important than ever. Having local suppliers and regular delivery drivers, again, that's important to us so that our staff aren't encountering lots of different people, so they know who's coming in to the cafe area for deliveries. And although our interactive displays are unfortunately temporarily out of use, we still have the answers available so that people can still find out and engage with that display. Next slide, please. So just to summarise, I think changes can be small. Probably the biggest change overall over the last few years has been offering the free water refills. That's been really popular, and it's just made a difference because it means people then aren't buying new bottles of water, and they're able to then reduce waste. I think the cafe and the shop area is a really good way to reach people because you're face to face, you can talk to people, you can explain why you've got these things in place and the meaning behind them. I think it's important to engage children wherever possible as well. So they're the ones who are going to go back home, talk to their parents, talk to the adults around them about these issues, and they're the ones as well in the future who are going to be the ones that we need to help with the environmental problems that we have. And also just find out what your local town's doing and what your local council's doing and engage with them and work with them as much as you can. Next slide, please. I just want to finish there. There's my contact details. If anybody has anything, wants to contact me at all, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Janine. We don't have any questions in the chat box at the moment, but if anyone thinks of anything that they'd like to ask Janine, you can pop a question in there and we might have some time in the end to come back to it, or like Janine says, you can contact her directly. Okay, our second case study is from Newquay Heritage Archive and Museum. It's a small independent charity funded entirely by public donations and local sponsorship. Newquay has an estimated population of 25,000 people, which rises to around 100,000 during peak holiday periods. This in itself brings challenges around increased waste, vehicle emissions, and disposable holiday culture, like barbecues, beach toys, and takeaways. The museum itself is housed in a rather uninspiring building off the beaten tourist track, so it operates on an inside-out model, concentrating activities on pop-up events, heritage walks and talks, outdoor interpretation, linking in with tourism accommodation, shops and local businesses. It takes a high-profile role in events around town, and working collaboratively is central to its survival. I'm going to show you a film now. This film was produced in 2019 alongside Newquay Marine Group and Fistral Beach Clean, and it explains how they are tackling plastic pollution.
Newquay is a popular tourist town, a world-famous surf destination and a working fishing port. The sea plays a central role around the town's heritage, identity and economy, which is why, like all seaside communities, it is under threat from marine plastic pollution. The danger of plastics in our ocean is real. You only need to visit your nearest beach to see it's already on our doorsteps. Newquay Heritage Archive and Museum has initiated a collaborative project to raise awareness of the issue and demonstrate what communities can achieve when working together towards solutions. I'll be chatting to some of their community partners to find out more. I met with Jill and Andy from Fistral Beach Clean to gain an insight into working together as a community.
In January 2014, we had very large storms in the southwest. Shortly afterwards, we started to find lots of old litter. Initially, it was quite puzzling. Where was this litter coming from? And then it clicked. It was actually been locked in the dunes. What is really interesting is when you find a piece of litter which is older than some of our beach cleaners.
That's right. Wow.
So it goes to show that plastic, aluminium, cans, etc., locked in the dunes, they don't degrade.
Okay.
Not in any hurry anyway.
Yeah. Why is it important for communities to pull together and tackle this issue?
I think with something like a beach, which it's very easy for us all to come down and spend time on it, use the beach, it's also important for us though then to also protect this environment and in essence give something back.
Of course, the problem of plastic pollution extends far beyond Newquay. 5,000 items of marine plastic waste have been found per mile of beach in the UK, and scientists recently discovered microplastics buried deep in the Arctic ice. There's an estimated 269,000 tonnes of marine plastic floating in the ocean, and it's killing 100,000 marine mammals and 1 million seabirds each year. Set up by a group of passionate locals, Newquay Marine Group is a community-run conservation group that works to protect Newquay's coastline for the future. I met Laura, who's one of the co-founders.
Cornwall is basically based on a tourism industry, so we have a huge influx of people that come in the summer to enjoy what we have. But with that comes boat traffic, comes more people, more litter. But what we don't see is the microplastics which we have in our waters. So Newquay Marine Group, along with a huge number of stakeholders, have been doing a microplastic project where we've been trawling around our beaches. What we have found is there are over 2 million pieces of microplastic floating on the surface around our Newquay beaches. In one trawl we found 3,000 pieces of microplastic. So if you imagine what that is like around the country, and it's just going to get more and more and more problematic, then we're going to see a real impact in the next 20 years.
Do you think the collaboration changed the way that you work, and do you think that it helped you reach other people that maybe you wouldn't have reached before?
Oh, absolutely. I think that the demographic of the museum and the people that is interested in the history has really made sure that our conversation has reached more people. And by going into these tourist facilities and businesses and having displays, which we wouldn't have been able to do without the museum's help, has had huge impact.
I spoke with Len, who's a local historian and coordinator of Newquay Heritage Archive and Museum, to tell us how the project worked. Your way of working isn't typical of a museum. Why do you spend so much time out in the town?
We feel that it's really important for us to communicate with large numbers of people, organisations, community groups throughout the town to get our message across, and that way we reach a far greater number of people than we would do just people coming into our museum.
Why is collaboration so important, especially when it comes to topics like plastic pollution?
It's just seemed a natural thing to do, to hook up with someone that actually knew what they were talking about and could actually bring something to the party. So initially it was Newquay Marine Group. They brought some fantastic information. Their offering really kick-started this project. Working with Fistral Beach Clean, they presented us with a fantastic artwork in the shape of a surfboard and also a box of vintage rubbish. And there's nothing people seem to like more than picking through this box of ancient crisp packets going back to 1984. So that really emphasises to people and resonates with people how long some of these plastics and these packaging last, even though it's been in the open air.
Working together in this way, these organisations realised they are reaching many more people. By engaging people of all ages and backgrounds, the project is inspiring a shared sense of responsibility for the pressing issue. Its success also underlines something that anybody who works in a museum already knows. Museums aren't just about preserving our past, they play a fundamental role in conserving our future too.
Okay, I hope those two case studies have got you thinking. We're now going to get together in breakout rooms to share some ideas and think about new things that we can do to reduce waste, improve energy efficiency, improve sustainability, and tackle climate change. After the conference, I'm going to pull our ideas together into a growing green manifesto for museums, which will be a set of ideas and guidelines that you can take back with you and use or adapt as you wish. For each breakout, please note the group that you're in. please could you also nominate a scribe or a spokesperson to share their screen with your breakout group and note down some ideas in a Word document or similar. When we return, I'm going to ask your scribe to feed back to us all, please. And scribes, could you also please keep a copy of your notes to email to me after the session? In our first breakout, you're going to have a little under 10 minutes to think about the changes we could make across our sector. This is about what we can do collaboratively together to affect a cultural change in museums. Then we'll come back together to quickly share some thoughts. Okay, I'm going to set up the breakout rooms now. There will be 4 rooms with 4 or 5 of you in each, okay? I'll create the rooms and you can zip out to them now, and I'll give you a notice when you've got a couple of minutes left and bring you all back in. Okay, see you soon. Okay, hello everyone. I hope you had fun there. Think you're all back. Please could I ask the nominated spokesperson scribe from room 1 to unmute yourself and just tell us a couple of the ideas that you were talking about sector-wide changes we could make, please.
Right, is that me?
That's you, Anna. Hi, Anna.
Sorry,
Thank you.
now I've got to work out how to share my screen again. We talked about some of the things that had already been said in relation to the presentation. So greening up cafes, having tinned water, removing plastic, improving the offer in a gift shop, and so on. In terms of larger things, we talked about the barriers to doing larger and more impactful projects being around funding. Okay. And maybe that was something the sector could be more obvious about. Key examples were thinking about how to power storage. So if you're wanting to use a green energy provider or have solar panels or something to maintain your storage conditions, or if you wanted to install track lighting with, it's expensive to replace lighting systems with lower energy lighting systems. And we also talked about a bigger impact would be things like retrofitting. There was the example of the Connect Theatre, and obviously there's been a lot of capital investment in museums with extensions and new buildings, but actually the sector could lead the way with retrofitting as opposed to building from scratch. So yeah, I think there's a sense that the quick wins can be done in-house and are being done, but there needs to be maybe something for more ambitious projects put out there.
Brilliant, great. Thank you very much, Anna.
Okay.
Okay, you can mute yourself again and go back to safety. Please can the scribe from breakout room 2 just pop on, and have you got anything to add to that, or did you come up with some different thoughts?
It's me. We had the same discussion, really. I guess we were talking about reusing, as we had the examples, really cutting down on waste and making sure we use recyclable products, etc., in all our shops and cafes. But also things like exhibitions, which can be quite often you end up throwing things away. We should perhaps be thinking about recycling stuff a bit more. But we got onto energy, particularly. That would seem to be somewhere where we could perhaps work with energy suppliers, and maybe there were grants for retrofitting or improving our efficiency. Maybe they provide a special rate for our sector. Might do. It's worth asking. But also about encouraging people to use our places sustainably. So, we're in the southwest. We all know that car is king, really, because that's the easiest way to get around. But maybe where there is options for public transport, to encourage people to use that, or to make sure we've all provided electric charging points, so that actually it becomes much more achievable for people to visit our sites using electric cars, for example. So I'm leading by examples. What we kind of came up with, that we can make those small changes, but we also need to lead a bit on the bigger ones as well. So that's it, I think.
Great. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Beth. Can we have the scribe for group 3, please?
I think that was me. we actually took a slightly different tack to the other two groups, and we talked a lot about networking and how important events like today are, especially being able to access them virtually, because the prospect of going down to the southwest, if you're from the north, which is where I am today, is very difficult, just time-wise, to get that amount of time away from your day job. But looking at kind of the delegate list, we were saying there's people from all over. We also talked about some of the barriers and saying that, you know, financial support can be a big stumbling block to actually getting some of these changes in place, and being able to get your voice heard in the middle of a pandemic is not the easiest thing in the world. So we kind of ended on just saying how useful it is to have access to a network of specialists or people who've done case studies, things like that, for that expert signposting, because a lot of us would love to be more green, but we don't even know where to begin in going about it. And we talked about how it's so important to get in touch and be brave and ask for help, because that's the only way we're going to get things done.
Yeah, I completely agree, Sarah. Thank you so much for that. And lastly, room 4, any other thoughts to add, please?
Hi, hello. I was the scribe for room 4. Yeah, I suppose a lot's already been said. I think we're also thinking about, you know, some places have already got sustainability policies, and it's the chance to share good practice across the sector was really thought to be important. Also, maybe the structures of within different organisations, not just having managers on board, but the importance of everybody sort of contributing their ideas and asking questions. I suppose it's the cultural, you know, within different institutional cultures, maybe sort of having that as something which is encouraged across the board, so we all feel able to contribute in a meaningful way. It's quite important going forward. So yeah, and I think, you know, obviously there's huge challenges ahead of us, but basically sharing our knowledge and having more conferences like today, because I think everybody's got a huge amount out of today with all the different ideas that are buzzing around. So yeah, really positive about that.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you so much, Fiona, and thank you everyone for feeding back. We're going to focus down a bit more now into your museums and organisations. So picking up on some of the ideas that you've already mentioned, in this 10-minute breakout, probably a little bit less, please could you share what you're already doing within your museums, what new measures you think you could adopt, and then decide in your groups 3 main action points, your top 3 actions that you would put in a green manifesto. And then if we can do the same scribing and sharing when we get back, you can swap scribes if you like, or keep the same person. If you just come back to us and share those 3 actions from your group, that would be fantastic. Okay, I think we're all back now. We've just got 5 minutes to quickly finish off. Hopefully we won't go over time. Could we have group 1, please, back again, just for your 3 top actions?
I'm just going to memorise them again rather than mess around. Right, action number 1, adapt to the backward steps that COVID has forced us to take in recycling and reusing. So try and come up to that quite speedily. For example, at Chippenham, I think it's Chippenham Museum, they're refilling their sanitizer bottles, and we talked about selling cloth masks in shops. Point number 2 was about don't get stymied by not being able to start something big. Start small, do something, prove it is effective, shout about it, network with people about it, and evidence its success in order to get the next things done. And point 3 was embrace the bicycle revolution, provide more bike racks, provide discounts in shops. We talked about the fact that a lot of people are not car sharing anymore to go to sites. So trying to obviously encourage people to cycle to sites and provide appropriate facilities.
Fab. Thank you, Anna. Brilliant. Okay, group 2, please.
That's it. Sorry, usual. Oh, you're on mute. we've actually got a few more because we kind of got chatting in the end, and plastic-free spaces was something we wanted to kind of just quite a simple one. Green energy, we came back from our previous discussion. Only work, and then they're actually choosing to work with green companies that share your values, working locally where we can, and also actually we got kind of cut off actually, but the visitors actually should take responsibility for their rubbish, and that actually, you know, if they're kind of giving up to us to get rid of, but actually they're producing the waste. You know, if they're bringing a packed lunch or whatever, and actually they should take it home with them, because they're responsible for that rubbish, not you as the organisation that they've come to visit. So it's quite tough, but that's what we came up with.
Firm. Brilliant, thank you, Beth. Okay, group 3.
We had some really interesting discussions about very practical and low cost ways of improving your carbon neutral credentials as a space. So some things that are as simple as keeping the doors and the windows closed in a historic building can make a huge amount of difference, not only for conservation issues around pest control, but also for how much heating you use or how much heating you don't use. We also talked about what your site can do for you. So for example, one of the sites was talking about using apples produced on site for pig fodder, carbon neutral pig fodder. And the site that I have an office in has got an on-site orchard that could be used for cafe produce. We also talked about the hot springs in Bath and how this could be used to heat buildings, which is really cool. And also about the mill that one of our members was from, and the old water wheel that it had that could one day be used to generate electricity, but that will require a lot of capital. And then we got on to discussing kind of some of these ideas are brilliant, but sometimes they can have a big impact on things like wildlife in the local area and noise quality. So whatever you do, you have to kind of really think that through in case you make it worse trying to be green.
Brilliant, great. Thank you very much, Sarah. Okay, and finally, group 4, please.
Hello, hope you can hear and see me okay. Okay, so we had, we went a bit broader in our points in the end for a manifesto. Communication, we thought was key. It's something already been mentioned, but again, it's a kind of at all levels, ensuring voices are heard and whatnot, but across the organisation. So very much really working across teams to find mutually agreeable solutions, but then national and international levels, like we've seen with the Fit for the Future network, that looks really quite exciting. And I also mentioned about the Climate Heritage Network. I don't know if anyone's aware of, for a more international portion, being involved, getting your voice heard on a more international level for heritage climate action. So communication, raising awareness, like we discussed, engaging with your audiences and leading by example within that, which we've also obviously already said, but yeah, so important to do. And I don't know, I hope you don't mind me adding, I came across the book of Little Green Nudges recently. I think it's related to the UN, and it's for, technically it's about campuses and stuff, but I thought it was a really useful way of assisting with behavioural change, which of course is something that's fundamental within this process. And so yeah, we'll be certainly having a look at it. But like, for example, instead of 40p off, when you bring a cup, it could be you have to pay 40p more for not bringing a cup. It's that kind of thing. So anyway, thank you. I think hopefully we did that update for the group. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that, Helen. Okay, I think we've got loads of really good ideas that we can all build on today. And just like to say one last thing, of all the ideas that we've spoken about this afternoon, I would love it if each of you could just take a moment to think of one of them that you will take back to your museum as a green pledge. And if you'd like to share that in the chat or tweet it using the Southwest Fed 2020 hashtag, it'd be really interesting to see those. I'll be updating and sharing a full green manifesto for museums through Southwest Fed and the Cornwall Museums partnership. And our contact details are on the screen as well. So scribes, and Beth has just asked very pertinently, where should we email the notes to? If you could email it to my email address, Stephanie@Cornwall Museums Partnership. .org.uk, that would be brilliant, please. And I'm so grateful for you, those of you who scribed and fed back for us this afternoon. I'd also really like to hear from you about any environmental work that you're doing, so please feel free to stay in touch with me by email or contact Cornwall Museums Partnership through Twitter. Finally, the main conference continues at 3:30 today, and you can use the link to the webinar that you used this morning. Just to finish off, on behalf of myself and Janine, thank you for your attention this afternoon and for making this session so positive and enjoyable. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you, everyone.